everyone, welcome to another class. This week we'll be working with the unit of immigration and racism. The purpose of this class is to analyze some of the political measures taken in order to tackle the issue of immigration in Great Britain. In order to do that, we must first understand why the Black British went to Great Britain and what they found once they got there. We need to bear in mind that blacks have lived in this country since the time of the Romans, and they were the object of immigration control as early as Elizabethan time. However, Great Britain's present black population is basically the product of post-war immigration from the new Commonwealth, that is to say, from countries like India, Pakistan, Nigeria, Uganda, Malaysia, Singapore, among others. In 1948, the steamship Windrush brought around 500 Jamaican immigrants, and this marked the start of mass migration to the UK from the British Empire. But why? At the end of the Second World War, the Black British came to answer shortages in transport, hospitals, clothing, and textile industries, as the United Kingdom was in dire need of reconstruction. Since these people were citizens of the new Commonwealth, they had the right to enter the UK and settle there. This was confirmed by the British Nationality Acts passed in 1848. We need to remember that these newcomers were living even worse jobs for better conditions and the possibility of saving for a return home. Once in Great Britain, they encountered disadvantages and racism, though. Disadvantages as regards housing, for example, because they were concentrated in districts that lacked basic amenities and were really overcrowded. Disadvantages in employment, because blacks were less likely to be in white-collar jobs and they were more likely to be in unskilled manual work. And also their earnings were significantly lower than whites. And also disadvantages in education, since black children were more likely to be perceived by teachers as inadequate or stupid. Apart from these disadvantages, they also found racist discrimination. There were racist strikes in the 1950s and 60s against the initial employment of black workers. These new immigrants not only had black skins, but were also seen as cheap labor. They worked and lived in the worst possible conditions, and this eventually reinforced racist stereotypes among British workers. So, in view of the situation, let's look now at the politicians' reaction. The first policy reaction was not to attack racism directly, but to try to limit the problem and the consequent social disruption. Both parties, Labour and Conservative, as well as left and right political orientations, have signaled different trends towards the entry and presence of immigrants. And of course, when we say immigrants, we mean especially black immigrants since the post-war era. When the British Nationality Act was passed in 1948, it established, as we have said before, the possibility of entry to the country to all members of the Commonwealth. They could enjoy the same rights of citizenship as the British. However, a new economic crisis brought about unemployment and competition for jobs. There was a growing resentment towards immigrants, since many people felt that they were stealing jobs. So, in 1961, the Conservatives introduced the Commonwealth Immigration Act. This act established that British citizens from the Commonwealth could only enter if they obtained a voucher. And there were three kinds of vouchers that applicants could obtain: Category A, Category B, and Category C. Category A vouchers were issued to those who had already acquired a job in Britain. Category B vouchers were for those who did not yet have a job secure, but clearly possessed special skills that could be beneficial for the British society. And Category C vouchers that were issued for well, those people who fell into neither A nor B. The act was not overtly racist because it applied to all Commonwealth citizens except the Irish. So in theory, the purpose of the Commonwealth Immigration Act was to restrict the number of people entering the country, but in practice, the bill's real purpose was to restrict the influx of colored immigrants. So the Labour Party opposed this bill on the grounds that the government was succumbing to racist pressures. After this, politicians from both parties issued a series of acts in order to tackle the issue of immigration. As you can see here in the graphic, the Conservative Party, well, we can say that in the case of the Conservative Party, the objective of the legislation was to restrict immigration, and in the case of the Labour Party, on the other hand, the objective was to improve conditions of those people already living in the country through integration. These two policies are referred to as the twin-track policies because they were two sets of policies coexisting in the same country. Their messages differed and opposed one another, while immigration controls give the message that colored people should be kept out of Britain. Race relation policy gives the message that they are welcome members of British society. Politicians' explanation for this was that without integration, limitation is inexcusable, and that without limitation, integration is impossible. So, well, if you want to expand your knowledge into this topic and you're interested in reading a little bit more about this, I recommend going to our virtual library, and there you will find some extra material. So, well, I hope that you find this topic interesting. Remember that you will need to complete a compulsory activity based on this class. So, well, thank you very much for watching it, and keep on reading the material. Thank you very much.